And every single one of these instances where Trump insiders are the only ones who are capable of making these decisions because they're operating with insider information, you end up unironically consolidating insane amounts of wealth in the hands of an even smaller amount of people. That's all this is. Where will this go? Will this go to a future where there's like 10 trillionaires and then everyone else is broke and dying on the streets? Like, is that what we're going to do? Is that a world that you want to live in anyway? Financial Times exclusive. Traders made bets worth $500 million in the oil market about 15 minutes before Donald Trump's post touting productive talks with Iran sent the price of crude tumbling. If we had a functioning SEC, this would be a problem, except we don't. And this has to be someone in the Trump family, by the way. There is 0% chance that even like a general or someone else in the room would engage in this. Like it has to be directly related to him, right? Like directly. Yeah, I said they're raping the land and pillaging everyone else in the process. Unbelievable. It's so crazy. Every day, bro. Every day. Trump will be like, that's it. The Iranians, they're doing us a great deal. They're doing us a great deal. They love us. They're terrified of us. They're so scared. And the Iranians are like, yeah, we're so scared. Here, watch this. It's so wild, like, especially considering that this inconsistency seemingly doesn't have a negative, volatile impact on the markets, right? Like, they might as well just stop fighting. They might as well retreat and then just lie about it. You know what I mean? It has nothing to do with like whatever is happening on the ground anyway. So you might as well just be like, yep, we're still blowing up Iran. Just keep saying that. And then Iran is so terrified. Any day now, any day, the Iranian government will be toppled. You know? Because like the markets are so desperate for stability that they are just inventing stability. They literally are just making it up. There is no stability right now. None whatsoever, right? It is the most volatile, most insane market manipulation I've ever encountered. And the only time where it was this insane was the last time Donald Trump did the Liberation Day shit. So obviously, yeah, I brought this up, but as far as the market manipulation, it's unbelievable how transparent this market manipulation and insider trading is. And yet, crime is legal. What are you supposed to do? Traders made bets worth $500 million in the oil markets 15 minutes before Donald Trump's post touting productive talks with Iran sent the price of crude tumbling and ignited volatility in other assets. Roughly 6,200 Brent and West Texas Intermediate futures contracts changed hands between 6:49 a.m. and 6:50 a.m. New York Times on Monday. Just a quarter of an hour ahead of U.S. President's post on Truth Social that there had been, in recent days, productive conversations with Tehran to end the war in Iran. The notional value of these trades was $580 million, according to Financial Times calculations based on Bloomberg data. Trading volumes for Brent and WTI leapt at the same time, 27 seconds before 6:50 a.m. Futures tracking the S&P 500 share index jumped in price moments after the oil trade, with volumes also rising significantly during that time frame. It was not known whether one entity or several entities were behind Monday's trades. Trump's announcement at 7:04 a.m. Oh, Sky News covered it.
Normally, in these screens, in the last few weeks, we've been talking about the economic implications of the Iran war. But this time I want to talk about something else. It's kind of a mystery story. It's a mystery.
Is it a mystery story? Wow, I wonder who did it. Who did the murder? It can't be the guy with the bloody knife in his hand, right? Guys, there was a knife attack. Who could it have been?
Story. The mystery
Very suspicious.
Begins.
Someone said Taryn Brump.
With this. This was the Donald Trump social media post, Truth Social, that for a lot of people made them think that maybe this war might be coming to an end. At the very least, it had a big impact on markets. And
I think what's funny about this also is that Trump has presented himself as an unreliable narrator of events regardless. Like, so the markets are also engaging in this like idiocy by treating his statements like any other president. Okay? So there's that element here as well. Like the market stabilizing after this this revelation is also stupid in and of itself. It's so stupid. Like there is a lot of wish casting here where there's a lot of people who know that this is bullshit, but they play along with it. They play along with it because, you know, it's more beneficial. There is no more market fundamentals at play here. Like not even a little bit. Trump's decision to postpone the Hormuz ultimatum was aimed in part at calming markets, according to people familiar with the matter. The markets only have eyes for Truth Social posts.
the thing I want you to focus on is not necessarily the text of this, but it's the time it came out. 11:05, that's UK time. So 11:05 in the UK, it was morning.
They're just making short-term gains. The same people who stabilize the market will be the ones driving the sell-off next week. Yeah, it's a bunch of corrupt vultures. Yeah, the markets are really scared, so they take any news as good news, but it's total cope. I mean, we saw this happen already. That's why I kept saying money is the most fake it's ever been, and tomorrow it's going to be even faker. Okay? We saw this with the Liberation Day saga. We experienced this with the Liberation Day saga, where Donald Trump came in and said, we're doing blanket tariffs on every country on the planet for no reason, right? And the moment that there was any sort of respite from this idiocy, the markets were like, oh, thank God. $7 trillion in value wiped out, and then $7 trillion in value materialized once again. It's like, come on, man. You cannot have a normal system like this. And every single one of these instances where Trump insiders are the only ones who are capable of making these decisions because they're operating with insider information, like you end up unironically consolidating insane amounts of wealth in the hands of an even smaller amount of people. That's all this is. Where will this go? Will this go to a future where there's like 10 trillionaires and then everyone else is broke and dying on the streets? Like, is that what we're going to do? Is that a world that you want to live in anyway? I don't understand it.
Earlier in the morning in the US, obviously. And look at the impact that this had. Okay, so this is showing you the crude oil price. It's the US kind of benchmark of the crude oil price, WTI as it's known. And you can probably spot already the moment that Donald Trump post happened. The oil price went down really sharply, and we've had lots of ups and downs, lots of volatile days on markets in recent days.
I should post that on my IG.
Was something else. As traders went out there and they basically said, we're selling oil because we think that things might get a little bit better. But here's what I want to focus on that you don't normally see in these charts. Not just the price, so that's the oil price, but the volumes. You can actually look at this. You can look at just how many people are buying and selling at any given moment. And have a look at volumes. So these bars are showing you the volumes. So at the given moment that obviously that Donald Trump post happened, you had this massive increase in a lot of people going out there into the market and say, look, something's happening. We need to actually act on it. For the most case, selling at this point. But here's the curious thing, and here's kind of where the mystery is. I want to kind of zoom in on this area here. So I'll kind of zoom in so you can see this is just the volumes of people going into that oil market and kind of, for the most part, selling after that Donald Trump post. You can see there's...
By the way, this is just pure, like this is futures. This is a futures market, right? There's also the poly market bets too. Like every part of this is bunk. And once again, you can't even prosecute poly market, even though there's very clearly insider trading taking place. And you might ask the question, why? And that's because Donald Trump Jr. is sitting on the regulatory board, and that's not going to happen anyway. You are pocket watching and jealous. I just don't understand how this is seen as a sustainable system and how so many are just like sitting around thinking, it's fine. It'll be fine. So it'll fix itself. Or better yet, they're just completely oblivious. Like life goes on for them. They just don't think about it at all. I don't understand how you can live like this. Before the war started, WTI oil was $60, $65. War starts, it goes up to 100, and then it goes down to 90. The market acts like everything is amazing, despite the fact that the price is still $25 to $30 higher than in February. Same thing happened with the tariffs. Tear shit apart, then gain back a quarter of it, and the market acts like things are better than ever. Yeah. By the way, this is literally the Trump method. I described this during Liberation Day, and even before then, I saw this in Trump 1 as well. He breaks things 100%, then claws it back to like 50%, and everybody goes, "Oh, we got 50% liberated." He molests things, and then scales back the molestation, and then everyone goes, "Oh, thank God, we're saved." It's ridiculous. The money is still 50% molested in that process. It's a classic Trump bargain. He does this all the time. New York Times says there's a 15-plan point to end the war. U.S. has sent Iran a 15-point plan to end the war in the Middle East. Oh, my lordy. I've tried many times to understand the stock market, but I can't. Can you explain what this exactly means? What do you mean this is not real money? I want to know so I can fight my cynic liberal boyfriend on this. I don't know how to explain it. Stocks that are traded on the stock market are supposed to be traded on fundamentals, like market fundamentals. Like in the past, when a company had new technology, okay, their stock prices increased. They had a more valuable product. It doesn't work that way anymore. Everything is financial engineering. It's not anchored around anything but speculation. And given the market consolidation that has taken place in the stock market as well, where 90% of the stock market is owned by the top 10% of earners in the country, the top 10% of wealth in this country, there's tremendous consolidation. So there's like markets move in a certain direction very quickly. It's not democratized at all. It's not like, $1, one vote. It's not a system like that. And because it's sometimes three companies owning 70% of the gains, for example, and other times it's like all of the money is in the hands of the wealthiest people. It's in their vested interest to keep up with this lie. Like one of the examples I used to use was the Tesla valuations, right? Tesla became such a behemoth with so many institutions closely tied to Tesla's success that anytime Elon Musk lied, right, and then was shown to be a liar over and over again, people just kind of went along with the lie because they had a vested interest in the Tesla stock prices going up because they'd bought into it. That's part of the reason why I always say the way the stock market works is if it's doing well, it's not doing well for you necessarily. You might think so because you have a 401k. This makes the average working class individual think that they have a stake in the stock market doing well, but it's not actually doing well for you at all. The gains you're making are marginal. It's inconsequential. But when it's doing poorly, that's when you actually suffer because you see job losses, right? You see scale backs in our productive output. The gains are privatized and the losses are socialized. Stocks are real money, as in you can cash it out at any time, but increasingly the value of companies is not actually based in their intrinsic value, profits, assets, innovation, etc., but based on hype. It always has been to an extent, but it's gotten worse, especially if 401ks take up a huge market shares and just sit there. The state has propped it up, and normal people are trading now. I don't necessarily think it's because of retail traders that the stock market is so unbelievably busted. I don't think it's true at all. I think it's the exact opposite. I think it's the consolidation of ownership of most stocks in the hands of a select few institutional traders that has created this system. I think that it's actually the institutional traders as opposed to the retail traders that are the reason why the stocks are not reliable at all. I mean, they're not based around the fundamentals that they were supposed to theoretically be in. Stay in your lane, bro, stocky. I mean, again, this is not my forte at all. This is not my area of expertise at all. I don't even own stocks, as you guys know, famously. So I could be totally off base here, but this is just the way I see it. That's why I say money is fake. It's I'm too stupid to understand it, but it just like feels so fake to me. The thing about retail traders is the institutional traders now follow their expectations of what retail traders will do. So it's kind of both at once. I think there is a vested interest in the stock market constantly being in a bull market. That's what it is. Whether retail traders are actually, movers and shakers at all doesn't really matter. I think that it's more so that everyone involved in the stock market assumes that it's always going to grow. Okay? Stock always goes up. And the government has actually done everything in its power to make sure that the stock market is always going up. And that's like what Donald Trump does. That's what Donald Trump's big thing is, right? He's the most responsive to market moves. If you want to take him out, just destroy the stock market. Now, the problem here, bro, you're right. The market is determined by the movements in it. If few people hold the most stocks and they can make it look however they want to, that's what I think is going on. I don't think it's like retail traders that are going, oh, Donald Trump on Truth Social said that, a deal is imminent. I think it's actually the institutional traders that control a large share of the stock market that go, oh, thank God. And the only reason why they do that is because they have a vested interest in the stock market stabilizing. A company like SpaceX has no reason to IPO at over $1 trillion, given its assets of like $50 billion total, but retail traders are extremely excited about it, so it'll likely be valued at 1.2 to 1.5 trillion. It's just one part of the puzzle, though. Yeah, retail is like 10% of stocks is true. I don't think it's I don't think they're moving they're moving the markets at all. I think they have the capacity to, like with what we saw with GameStop, right? They sometimes have the capacity to, but they don't have the necessary volume to move the markets in the way that like institutional traders can. I just don't. The real money makers are making the banks with the making bank with the volatility. Most bank on it. They buy futures in the hold, and in the hold, the price will go up. Most average people's exposure in the market is passively through a 401k or IRA accounts, and typically those are against some kind of index like the S&P 500. The market is propped up right now by the tech sector, and so much of that hinges on AI hype. Mind you, 80% of U.S. jobs are in services, which AI companies claim they want to automate. Very cool. Yeah, something's got to give. I mean, the contradictions that exist with the only indicator that the economy is doing well by people in positions of power, stock market doing well, is unironically having the exact opposite effect on the real economy, the economy that you think of when you think of the economy doing well for the average, ordinary, working class individuals. Like it has a depressive aspect on regular working class folks, but the stock market is doing well. So all the money holders, all the real power brokers, they think the stock market is doing well. So Trump's job performance is fine, right? It's doing all right, especially if they're close to Donald Trump. The closer they are, the more they can make these sorts of shady trades. We're saying goodbye to the Sora app. To everyone who created with Sora, shared it, and built community around it, thank you. What you made with Sora mattered, and we know this news is disappointing. Oh, no. We'll share more soon, including timelines for the app and API and details on preserving your work, the Sora team. No! No! Not the Sora app. Not my Sora. Cause exit liquidity is always assured for these fucks in the form of 401ks. The problem is backlash from said exit would make it so that the slush fund of 401ks would go away from the inevitable regulation Glass-Steagall 2.0 or worse, so everything must be propped up at all costs. No, not my AI slop, dude. What the Anyway, let's continue.
There's a real spike in activity. A lot of people going in there, kind of this frenzy, and that's the kind of flip side of prices. But look at this. 15 minutes before that Donald Trump post, there was a very big amount of trading volume. Very big. In fact, actually, when you're looking at that amount of volume, that spike, that was the biggest trading volume that we saw that day. We're starting here just at 8 o'clock in the morning. We're going through to that moment of the Donald Trump post. Relatively quiet volumes, not much going on in the market, and then all of a sudden that. And if you're wondering, okay, maybe this was just a one-off, it was someone who made a lucky bet. Have a look not just at this. So this is WTI, it's one measure, the US measure of oil. Have a look at Brent, which is the kind of the European, seen as the international measure of oil. Again, the same thing. Donald Trump makes his post, flurry of activity, lots of people there. But look at that. Again, 15 minutes before that Donald Trump post, a very big trade. Now, it's unclear whether it's just an individual or whether it's a kind of group of people. But what you do know from just imputing what the potential value, the notional value of those trades just on oil would be, it is staggering amounts of money, life-changing amounts of money, $580 million. Someone has just made a real killing on this. And it's not just oil. So that's oil, two different measures of oil. But now have a look at the S&P 500. So this is S&P 500 futures. It's the biggest kind of exchange, stock market, equity market in the world. Same thing again. Donald Trump posts, the price goes up because people are getting very hopeful. Volumes go up at the same time. And if we zoom into the volumes once again, what do you see? Obviously, there's the volume after Donald Trump made his post, but 15 minutes before, this is actually 10:50 UK time, a very, very big trade. As I say, life-changing amounts of money, hundreds of millions of dollars were potentially made in those moments in this curious trade that seemed to come out of nowhere, leaving a lot of people wondering, was this just luck? Or did someone actually know what the president was about to say?
Yeah, I wonder. I wonder what it was, guys. How curious. 15-point document revealed. 15-point document demands no material to be enriched on Iranian soil. Channel 12, citing source. U.S. 15-point demands enrichment plants of Natanz, Isfahan, and Fordow to be decommissioned. 15-point document demands Iran stop funding proxies in the region. 15-point document demands free maritime zone in the Strait of Hormuz. So, okay. So what changed? Why? What I don't understand is, like, why would Iran say yes to this when they have the upper hand? OpenAI is shutting down. Wait, what? Is this April Fools or something? What? If OpenAI is shutting down, the American economy is over. It's just Sora, which is a huge dent. You'll love this. This is what the companies are propping up the market are doing now. They're guaranteeing 17.5% returns for additional private equity investment. Very normal shit going on. Anthropic is offering equity, and OpenAI is offering the same plus 17.5%, and both are hemorrhaging cash. OpenAI is offering private equity firms a guaranteed minimum return of 17.5%, as well as early access to models not yet in public release. ChatGPT maker OpenAI is offering private equity firms a sweeter deal than a rival Anthropic, as both artificial intelligence companies court buyout firms that form joint ventures aimed at raising fresh capital and accelerating adoption of enterprise AI products, according to people familiar with the talks. OpenAI is offering private equity firms a guaranteed minimum of 17.5%, significantly higher than typical preferred instruments. Two people familiar said, this is a Ponzi scheme, right? Like this is just a Ponzi scheme. How can you guarantee that? By just what? The cash that you raise? And for the record, you can't remember, you can do this to poor people and you'll become very rich. But if you do this to rich people, as OpenAI is doing, virtually to every massive company out there, you're gonna go to jail eventually. I mean, this is going to destroy the entire economy. Like, Bernie Madoff went to prison because he f***ed over rich people, okay? It's not because he f***ed over poor people. Nobody gives a shit if you f*** over poor people. You make a lot of money f***ing over poor people. It's because OpenClaw, open source, is OpenAI's future desktop agents,
digital employees. This gathering in Beijing, hosted by internet giant Baidu, hundreds of people line up.
This does unironically feel like anytime China truly reveals like an open source, easy access competitor to what the American AI companies are presenting at this like high markup, it literally disrupts America's only profit center. Like, the OpenClaw is some random German dude. OpenClaw is not Chinese. Oh shit, I thought it was Chinese. I was thinking of DeepSeek. This happened with DeepSeek. OpenClaw literally uses frontier models under the hood
to get OpenClaw onto their laptops and phones. The Austrian-designed AI agent is all the rage in China.
Events teaching people how to use OpenClaw, or raise a lobster, as Chinese people say, are popping up across the country. This one is a full house.
OpenClaw has become really hot.
China has already surpassed the U.S. in adopting the open source software, which can run anything on a computer for you without you. You can tell it to search the web, buy
What the
plane tickets,
fuck?
even direct other bots. Wang Xiaoyan is using
Bro, what the fuck is this? Yo, are people stupid? This is like, in my opinion, this is the biggest L of China. They are so involved in the AI craze. Okay, before I get into this, let's get back to situation monitoring. We'll get to the nuclear AI in a second. Here's Galabaf saying, we are aware of what is happening in the paper oil market, including the firms hired to influence oil futures. We also see the broader jawboning campaign. But let's see if they can turn that into actual fuel at the pump, or maybe even print gas molecules. This is what's happening as Trump is speaking and claiming the war with Iran is already over. Sirens across Israel. It's so cooked. Almost like that's an inherent massive vulnerability to commodity-dependent economy. Someone can undercut your entire economy if there's another source for your primary commodity. Yeah, it's also funny because the primary commodity that we're talking about is not like anything real. And ironically, if it succeeds, it will have massive negative consequences. Because like we're talking about AI, right? If AI actually reaches true artificial intelligence, it will have insane consequences for the labor market. So even if it technically succeeded, it would still be devastating, which, by the way, no real proof that it has, that we are anywhere near close to AGI regardless. Okay? Are you leading the Butlerian Jihad movement? I am. I'm the IRGC general of the Butlerian Jihad. I don't touch AI with a 10-foot pole. I just don't like it. I'm old. I hate it. I think it's bad. I think it's gross. I think it has horrible effects on our cognitive development in general. I think there's a major, you'll see in the future, if we have researchers at all, where you'll see papers popping up left and right about cognitive offloading and its dangers. Okay, the wealthy know this already, and that's precisely the reason why they send their children to schools where they, one, learn Mandarin. Okay, just remember that, and two, don't allow their kids to be on their phones or do all this AI shit. Like, we are the last generation. Millennials, ironically enough, and older Gen Z are the last generation that benefited from living in a world that wasn't entirely dominated by AI. AI was supposed to come after we achieved peace and stability. Instead, it's being thrust upon us at the lowest point in modern history. Well, AI is here, so what do we do to help resolve the cognitive reduction? We do away with it. But the reason why AI is all over is not even necessarily, I mean, it's partially to train the models, right? Like, that obviously plays a big role. But the other reason why they're doing it, especially with generative AI, is not because they like hate non-binary queer artists, okay? One might think that is the reason, considering the massive impact that it has on they, thems, and the artwork that they produce for commission. But the real reason why they do generative AI is because they want people to get excited about it so they can justify all of these massive amounts of cash grabs that they're doing. They're fundraising like crazy. These things are literally burning more than they are capable of fundraising. But the reason why they're doing it is so that, you know, people are more excited about it. You generate hype and aura moments around it so you can justify getting billions and billions and billions of dollars. I think your negative bias towards AI is clouding your judgment on this. A ton of the scientists that work on this stuff are all saying the shit's getting weird and scary in terms of how quickly AI is developing. They do, however, echo the negative consequences and say the only way it won't be destructive to everyday life is if we move away from capitalism. I've said that. That's my argument. I don't have an issue with technological development, okay? The problem is what technological development does under capitalism. Technological developments cannot come at the cost of the existing labor force. It's supposed to alleviate the stress. It's supposed to alleviate the burden of the existing working class, not replace it. I've said that a million times. You know this. The problem, however, is that there's a lot of hype and aura moments, and it's actually unironically destroying what makes us human, which is, making art and shit like that. It was Stavros that said it best, right? We thought robots would do the menial tasks, and we would have time for ourselves to focus on art. We got a situation, on the other hand, where the robots are doing the art, and we're still doing the menial tasks. Would it affect Chinese labor as well? Yes, and it already is. But I have more confidence in the Chinese state as far as like protecting its labor force and protecting its citizens than I do in the American one. That's the difference. Everything that the Chinese government has done so far has been incredibly responsive to the needs of its working class. It's constantly obsessed with improving the Chinese people's material conditions, right? So I don't believe that given their trajectory, given their development so far, that China is going to look at this and decide to like eviscerate its manufacturing capabilities. And they already are. They already are utilizing AI quite. They already are utilizing AI a lot more than even we are in some ways. It's replacing so many jobs in IT. They're trying to extract value anywhere with it. It's not working as intended at the moment, but we're still losing our jobs. It's crazy. China's electric vehicle fleet is estimated to have saved 1 million barrels, 1 million plus barrels per day since the oil crisis began. Wow, look at this. A government that makes long-term plans in the interest of its people instead of wildly jumping from the whims of lobby to lobby. The oil lobby made Trump slash U.S. EV subsidies, and as a result of the war, the Israel lobby made him launch will bite much harder. Yep. We're still paying out a French company. This was reported in the New York Times yesterday. I forgot to get to it. We're paying out a French company $1 billion to not put wind farms off the East Coast. Isn't that nuts? It's insane. I talked to my friends working in Shenzhen recently and found that Chinese companies adopt AI at the same pace as big tech in the U.S., if not faster. However, in contrary to the U.S. companies who use AI to displace the jobs, none of my friends in Chinese company felt insecure about their position. Instead, they're saying it's lifting the weights off their shoulder. So I'll say this much. China has a similar crisis of overproduction in their graduates, right? There already is a real issue that Xi Jinping has also identified and said he seeks to address with respect to the youth unemployment. So this is already an issue in China. And if they were to play fast and loose with AI and focus on profit for some of these like valuable tech sector jobs, because I think China's play on AI is to, improve efficiency without actually like reducing the number of workers, because they have to have workers, right? So at most they'll I assume they'll reduce the burden without actually leading to massive job loss. So they already have a significant issue with youth unemployment, right? And they're very good at structuring their economy to address those needs, because they understand that this is, they have to be responsive. They have, at least in the last 15 of these 5-year plans, they've done, or 14 of these 5-year plans, they've done that. They've done just that. They say, this is our target, we're going to hit it, and then they do, right? And all of that has yielded tremendous Chinese prosperity. How do you reduce burden without cutting jobs? Companies won't keep redundancies around. That's where not operating within a capitalist system comes into play. You can punish companies for firing people instead of like reducing their work hours. That's it. And I don't know if they will do that. I mean, they could create jobs programs, right? Because the Chinese economy is not structured in the same way that the Western liberal capitalist economies are, right? There's an aspect of for-profit capitalism that's baked into the system itself, especially when it comes to light industries. However, the government makes these decisions ahead of time and does have a centrally planned focus on key sectors that they want to develop. And it's very obvious that part of that is AI, specifically because AI is a massive force for the American economy right now. And if they just offer a cheap competitive product or a free one, they can undercut the American singular resource, the singular commodity that is like the American economy is anchored around, and they can deliver a devastating blow, right? So I suspect that the Chinese AI initiatives are focused on undermining the American AI bubble and maybe seek to burst it. That's what I think. Just as the Chinese focus on renewables, solar panels, and then the EV focus wasn't just to like create jobs, but also to electrify their grid and electrify all the other countries' grids, to like move them away from their over reliance on the petrodollar and specifically fossil fuels. And part of that also happens to be a good thing for the world, for not only for these countries to like develop some semblance of sovereignty, at least away from the American-backed petrol giants, the petro capitalists, but it also is good because obviously it ends up putting a dent in our carbon output, our carbon production, a significant dent if they were to fully focus on that. So in the absence of like America completely destroying the Gulf states and their production, which China still relies on, obviously. And for the record, crippling the Chinese economy would mean crippling the global economy because it's the manufacturing hub for the entire planet with no alternative facilities that can keep up with the needs of the rest of the world. Even if their economic model is different, Chinese companies are extraordinarily focused on efficiency. Unless CCP changes their attitudes on welfare, I'm not sure what will happen with AI replacing jobs. Yeah, I mean, they are very anti-welfare.
Conflict in the Middle East pushing up oil and petrol prices.
Yeah, also it's not CCP Cloud, it's CPC, Communist Party of China.
He's glad his vehicle is battery powered.
Now there is a war in Iran. The price of petrol is getting more and more expensive. Everywhere it's the same. It's better to have an electric truck.
China is one of the world's largest oil importers and relies heavily on supplies from the Gulf. Beijing has instructed refiners to limit exports of gasoline and diesel and raised price caps on petrol to conserve supply. But in China, millions of drivers no longer rely on petrol, insulating them from sudden price spikes. 1 in 4 new heavy vehicle sales and half of all new car sales are electric. Before the Iran war, China's demand for transport fuels was already peaking, with gasoline use plateauing and demand for diesel starting to decline as electric trucks took off. The country is still exposed to global oil markets, especially for the construction and manufacturing industries, as well as aviation and petrochemicals. Up to 50% of China's crude oil imports come from the Middle East, and most of it passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Chinese officials have
IEA did a report on it. Solar energy, the cheapest form of energy we've ever discovered. Solar panels are getting so cheap, it's like printing electricity in some places. Yeah, that's only because of the overproduction of the Chinese side, though. Everyone was like, why is China overproducing solar panels? Like, what's the goal here? That's the goal. Their economy doesn't operate in the same way that ours does. This is what I'm constantly stressing. This is what a lot of Western analysts get wrong about China. Okay? It's a huge problem. Every single foreignpolicy.com article head genuinely cannot comprehend this because their brain is so wired in the dogmatic approach to capitalism that they think like, oh, China's just like sneakily capitalist. Like they legitimately do not. Every single Western analyst that looks at China looks at it from the perspective of capitalism. And that's why they get shit wrong all the time, like literally nonstop. I'm nowhere near as educated on global markets or the economy in general. But the reason why I end up being right more often than wrong in the way that China operates is because, one, I listen to them. And when they say they're going to do something, I don't immediately think there's a sinister purpose for why they're saying this. That's like, that's just like to flex on the West, right? Because that's the overwhelming attitude. When they were building these ghost cities, everyone was like, oh, why are they building ghost cities? Oh, to flex on us. Oh, to show economic activity. Oh, to make it seem like they actually have a lot of economic activity and a lot of like movements. It turns out those weren't ghost cities. They were just building homes. They were mass producing housing units so they could develop those areas and then move people in those areas. Okay? But if you have this like weird Western attitude, and we do this with the DPRK too in some ways. Today I learned China doesn't do welfare. Oh yeah, China doesn't do any welfare at all. Yeah. China is very anti-welfare. No welfare whatsoever. Every hand's got to work. I mean, they have a much, like, in comparison to the Chinese economy, they have a much better attitude about like taking care of the no longer productive forces in the country. But what about the disabled? I don't know what the disability stuff looks like. But yeah, no, China has always been very, very anti-welfare. Always. China spent total of 3% of GDP on welfare. I don't even know what that number is. What do you mean no welfare? A longish post about China and energy security and buffers and strategic reserves. Energy security has been a feature in Chinese economic planning for decades, of course, but until the early 2010s, it was mostly framed in FYPs and other high-level documents as a question of adequacy, i.e., we must secure enough energy supplies to ensure no barriers or drags on industrialization. The early Xi era was the inflection point, in my view. Beginning around 2014, Chinese leaders began reframing energy security as a multidimensional strategic concept that included supply, sufficiency, technological advancements, geopolitics, and energy transition risks. For example, check out Xi's June 2014 speech to the Central Financial Work Leading Group on China's energy security strategy, linked at the end. This was relatively fresh for China at the time way of discussing Chinese energy strategy. In the next FYP, 13th from 2016 to 2020, 5-year plan, energy security starts to be framed more as a system reliability issue, not just a standard industrial capacity issue. It starts talking about diversification of supply and climate and efficiency goals, and power market reforms is partially presented as an energy security tool. This may have also been politically expedient way to promote unpopular reforms, at least for the SOEs, but it was also useful and good. Everybody hitting TLDRs are unironically grok brained. You have to stop. Electrifying your grid. Electrifying your energy grid with renewable energy offers, especially for China, absolute energy independence. Okay? And it's the same for other countries as well, because if China can present itself as a force of stability internationally, which it, does a pretty decent job, especially nowadays, then people are going to be more reliant on the Chinese monopoly, on photovoltaics, on solar panels, on renewable energy investments. Because at the end of the day, that's an infinitely more reliable way to develop sovereignty, because guess what? The sun is everywhere. Okay? The sun is everywhere. Unless you're in the Nordic countries, I guess. But even then, you have the sun. You can't block out the sun. Best of luck in Cuba. I wish I could join the flotilla. What are you talking about? I'm back from Cuba. This is a big threat to America because it's so funny. People are like, well, what about the clouds? This all got super explicit in the next 5-year plan from 2021 to 2025. Chapter 53, Strengthening Safeguards for Our Nation's Economic Security, had a section 2 called Energy and Resource Security Strategy, which mentions of ensuring secure supply, oil and gas self-reliance, enhancing strategic reserves, using coal as the foundation, and framing power system reliability as a political priority. There's also that aspect too. Like they could just turn on the coal power plants, as some of these countries are now doing. Once again, they're reactivating. I think it was Thailand that reactivated its old coal power plants because you have to keep your energy grid up, and if you can't get LNG, then you'll do coal. Also, solar is not the only source of renewable energy. True. This was, of course, further underlined by the power shortages in 2021, followed by the global energy crisis in 2022 with the Russia-Ukraine war. The China energy system that exists in the moment in 2026 is the product of this 14th five-year plan. And 2022 didn't happen the way that it, and 2022 didn't happen the way they did. China probably would still be in decent shape today, but they did happen, and the lessons were learned, and the overall system is that much more robust for it. And then when we have the newest, I keep wanting to say For You page, 5-year plan, the 15th one from 2026 to 2030, which we are still analyzing and awaiting more details on, but within which I'd say energy security continues to be a defining theme of the energy strategy sections. The broad story I'm reading now from the 15th For You page is electricity is the primary instrument of energy security, with renewables, nuclear, storage, grids, and electrification seen as tools to offset imports, absorb shocks, and preserve industrial competitiveness. Coal is explicitly retained as the strategic energy reserve and flexibility source of choice, not gas or petroleum. Energy security, industrial policy, and geopolitical risk management are fully merged into one unified political and economic paradigm. So yeah, China didn't just stumble into a position of resilience for the current Iran war and Hormuz energy shock. It's been building up to it and sharing its strategy quite publicly, mind you, for the last 12 plus years, essentially all of Xi's tenure. If you want to grok TLDR, China's 5-year plans have hyper-focused on energy independence through electrification of its grids. Okay? And not only are they doing this for themselves, they're basically revealing it in broad daylight to anyone else that will pay attention to it. Don't forget that PV and solar was once a literal German monopoly that got killed by conservatives in 2014 to keep us dependent on the petrodollar. Early 2000s Green Party economic strategy was kind of like China with long-term planning to create new markets, but conservatives willingly killed 150,000 jobs to stop it. There were numerous points, including the Green New Deal, where America could also have turned around its manufacturing lull. But of course, our oil behemoth was so overwhelmingly powerful because in China, the government controls the forces of capital, the flows of capital specifically. In the United States of America, capital controls the government. So if you actually allow capital to control the government, you say Green New Deal. You have a sophisticated network of propaganda that will be disseminated to the supposedly democratic system, democracy in theory, not in action, and people will develop negative opinions about it. Of course, no real democracy actually exists when it comes to the way that the government designs its foreign policy, the way the government even designs its own domestic policy that is at odds with the interests of capital and the interests of profit sectors, profit centers, specifically in the form of healthcare, for example. We can't destroy the healthcare system that is completely privatized, because if we were to do that, then our GDP would take a hit. These are major GDP providers. The line goes up. That's precisely the reason why we have such bloat in every sector. Okay? They could have done the same thing China did and still done warmongering just from a better position. Just say, oh, well, I don't care about the straight, flip the green switch. No, America doesn't care about the straight regardless. America and Americans in power will currently say, we don't give a fuck about the straight. And Trump says it all the time, as a matter of fact. It's not wrong. It's true. America is an exporter. So the straight being closed off unironically suits the short-term purpose and short-term goals of our energy sector, right? The reason why the strait is important is because it destroys the global economy, the Asian market specifically, where, a lot of our products are being manufactured, both in China and India and Vietnam and elsewhere. So technically, it's not as impactful for the American energy markets at all, even though, obviously, it's entirely dependent on whether or not the losses that the American energy providers are taking in the Gulf, because obviously these are their investments that are getting blown up, can be offset by, the price of the barrel skyrocketing, especially when there's a new, untapped, massive trove, the largest known natural reserves of heavy crude on the planet in Venezuela. One doesn't work without the other. This is what I've been thinking about for the last month or so, the last 25 days. I've brought it up periodically. I do think that, I mean, this is my only, like, this bullshit. It undermines the petrodollar, which is where the bulk of wealth and power is based. The closing of the strait absolutely ruins America because the U.S. economy is directly tied to oil. Yes. But here's what I said. Prior to the Iran war, Venezuelan crude refined and exported by the U.S. would destroy the domestic markets since the price would dip far below $60. If the Gulf productive capabilities are diminished, the U.S. could become one of the few major exporters and command great leverage over China's export controls. This seems like the only not insane long-term goal. Not sure it's even remotely feasible or achievable. So while American oil giants that have tremendous investment in Saudi Aramco and tremendous investments in the Gulf are actually taking a beating right now because their investments are blowing up or potentially slated to blow up, okay, if they light the region on fire, will they be able to offset that with their new investments and the new refinements that they can engage in Venezuela with far greater control? Because at the end of the day, Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states are still sovereign to a certain degree. They're vassalized, but they're nowhere near as vassalized as Venezuela will be.
Called for a ceasefire and a return to diplomacy, while trying to leverage Beijing's strong ties to Iran to secure safe passage for its tankers through the strait.
Gas prices go up in America since oil prices based on international market value regardless of U.S. surplus. Only ones that benefit are the producers because they can sell for more. I mean, that doesn't need to be the case, obviously. The American government could, impose price controls. They just won't do that because that's not what the American government does, right? And also, this second part that you just mentioned, the only ones that benefit are the producers because they can sell for more. Yeah, that is what the American government does. The American government doesn't operate at your behest. The American government doesn't operate for your benefit. I mean, this is kind of the whole point of why I criticize capitalism. Okay? They don't care about your needs. I mean, at most, it's a pressure that they will seek to alleviate, right? Because if the gas prices at the pump are so high, because it's tied to the global energy prices, if the gas prices at the pump are so unimaginably high, then yes, inflation crisis takes place. Cost of goods goes up. Americans are frustrated. They can't buy things, right? And inevitably, the economy falls apart and they revolt, right? So there is that pressure that they have to pay attention to. But if their goal is to, outside of that, I mean, they make this calculation on how much dick you can eat, basically. How much dick you can eat while the only people that I care about are capital owners, specifically in the oil and gas industry, the American oil and gas industry, and what their profit margins look like. It's possible that Venezuela's oil reserves are overstated as well. The numbers have all come from PDVSA itself, and people have been skeptical for a while now. I mean, I'm sure they have a better understanding of that. The American government does. These are the types of things you can't fuck around with. We're talking about money. If you want to continue with the China topic, Bloomberg covered China's super grid. Can I ask, why did you start saying about the Venezuela oil idea for short-term gain recently in the past 2 weeks and not instantly in the Venezuela kidnapping? I did. I actually criticized the Economist and all of the other analysts that were like, oh, we don't even benefit from Venezuela's massive natural reserves because if we were overproducing oil, it would destroy the American small business frackers and it would destroy the Texas economy. It would destroy the American oil and gas industry because it would be too cheap. Oh, that's why you timestamped it. Okay, got it. If you recall, I told you that that's still bullshit. No one is ever going to say no to more natural reserves. And now we're seeing kind of why.
That we have talked about, China's efforts to build out its energy sources is actually getting fresh momentum from this conflict in the Middle East. And Beijing is one of the largest global investors in power grids. And China was the fastest growing LNG market before Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2020 triggered a surge in spot prices.
But Bloomberg Opinion columnist David Fickling says there's a lesson to be learned in Beijing's dash for gas. He joins us now, together with our reporter Dan Murtaugh, to talk us through this complex issue right now. David, let me start with you. Underscore the premise here for us.
Yeah, I think this is looking at I was looking at a very specific case, really, which is, some of the things that have caused these blue skies around Beijing in recent years. You remember, like 10 years ago, there was a lot of air pollution in northern China, especially in winter. One of the things that's really changed that is that since about 2017, there's been a lot of push for people in rural areas to stop burning coal in domestic furnaces to warm themselves in winter. And that's pushed people in several directions. One has been to electric heaters and some to heat pumps, but a lot of them have also been pushed to gas boilers. And that's actually caused real problems just in this past winter. We saw quite a lot of reports in January with some of these rural families. They were initially subsidised to install gas boilers. They were subsidised for the price of the gas, and those subsidies have gradually been removed because, of course, a lot of local governments in China, are facing a lot of fiscal pressure, and that's left, some of these quite shocking reports out of, China of 2026, where you've got poor rural families who can't afford to heat their houses, who are, people who are having to sort of stand outside in the midday sun to get a little bit of warmth, and are just like having to rug up inside with extra layers of clothing. Now, I think that was a real mistake, because the costs of heat pumps, essentially, reverse cycle air conditioners, are not that much greater for in a lot of these areas, about 20%. And really, a lot of people talk about gas as this sort of bridge to electrification. I think we saw in that Hebei winter gas crisis some of the problems for that, and of course we're seeing spilling out of the crisis in the Middle East some of the problems for that much more broadly in the world.
Yeah, David, you certainly have highlighted some of the challenges in this whole transition. Dan, maybe you can step in and talk about how, what is being done now, right? This push to expand China's energy infrastructure, and when it comes to capacity in the power grid, what efforts are being done now?
Yeah, David's exactly right. I think China has sort of realized that it was too reliant. It requires about 50% of its gas coming from overseas markets, about 70% of its oil coming from overseas markets. So it's really exposed to any gyrations in global prices. And now it looks at electricity, which is mostly coming from domestic sources: coal, nuclear, wind, solar, hydropower, all of which are produced in China. So it has a lot more control over the prices and supply there. And so it's been shifting its economy over the last couple of decades toward more and more electricity. Mostly you see that in EVs, but you can see it out in the countryside with these huge.
What level of damage to America would it take for you to consider moving to China? I mean, I like China, but I like China, but it's not about the level of damage that America could withstand. It's more so about like me going straight up to prison. That's how the do you like China, dude? I don't know, because I'm agnostic and I don't maintain like idiotic, childlike attitudes about like nation states in the way that you do. Like I've been pretty open about this, where like I have my loyalty to the people, okay, everywhere around the world. Yeah, man, but do you know the history of China? I'm willing to bet a lot better than you do, my friend. The one who once spoke of regime change and the fragmentation of Iran now hopes that someone in Iran will engage in dialogue with him, though this, too, is merely an attempt at deception. Like they killed babies to stop overpopulation. Name every Chinese, period. You don't want to live in China because they didn't allow you to hug panda? That's true. That was a big blow to my confidence in China. Are you pro or anti-Israel Epstein? Pro-Israel Epstein, my goat. The good Israel Epstein. Member of the CPC. China's Wang Yi tells Iran talks are better than war. China urges starting peace talks on Iran as soon as possible. See? Qatar Energy has declared force majeure on some of its affected long-term LNG supply contracts with counterparties including customers in Italy, Belgium, South Korea, and China. This might be a popular mindset in the Trump circle. I don't know if America will just pull out without taking control over the control of Hormuz. Yeah, General Mattis, Iran right now, if we declared victory, they would now say they own the strait. You'd see a tax for every ship that goes through. We're in a tough spot, ladies and gentlemen. I can't identify a lot of options. Oh, my Lord. We're winning, baby. We're winning. How about you focus on what your government is doing? What? Americans need to shut the fuck up about China. Handle your own affairs. No, that's ridiculous. Okay. Of course, I'm going to offer analysis for what China could be doing in favor of China, mind you. I'm not even talking about like, China engaging in a moral act. Hold on. iDubbbz raid. Hey, iDubbbz, thank you for the raid. Hope you had a good stream, brother. Israeli diplomat believes Trump is not talking to someone different. High-level commander of the IRGC. Ambassador Michael Oren tells Fox News he believes the U.S. is not talking to either Ghalibaf or Arakchi, that the administration is talking to someone high up in the IRGC command structure. Doubtful.
How hopeful are you that this peace deal will work out, like as a human,
On what?
On a human level, and not as the President of the United States? How hopeful are you that this peace deal will work out with Iran?
You're talking about to end it? Well, I think we're going to end it. I can't tell you for sure. I don't like to say this. We've won this. This war has been won. The only one that likes to keep it going is the fake news. I mean, the New York Times, you read the New York Times, it's like we're not winning a war where they have no Navy and they have no Air Force and they have no nothing. And we literally have planes flying over Tehran and other parts of their country. They can't do a thing about it. For instance, if I want to take down that power plant, that very big, powerful power plant, they can't do a thing about it. It's like, take me. That's all they can do. And yet, if you read the New York Times or if you watch ABC fake news or NBC fake news, you'd say it's a close battle. It's not a close battle. They're totally defeated.
You said there's a bunch of people from the administration who are negotiating with Iran. There's been reports that the vice president is leading those negotiations. Is that true?
Well, he's involved in them. JD is involved, and Marco's involved, and Jared Kushner's involved, very smart guy, and Steve Witkoff, smart guy, is involved. And I'm involved. I'm involved. Why? I'm going to be so big. Oh, I don't want to talk about it. I'm the president of the United States, Tom. And I'm not going to talk about it. It's beneath me to talk about saving millions of lives, because that's what you're talking about. You're talking about saving millions of lives. If Iran had a nuclear weapon, they would have used it. And if I didn't end the horrible Barack Hussein Obama Iran nuclear deal in my first administration, they would have had a nuclear weapon 3 or 4 years ago. They would have used it. I would have never gotten the chance probably to be president. Who knows what it would have been so devastating. And if we didn't send those beautiful B-2 bombers, they took them off my desk. They were right there. I don't know why. But if we didn't have those beautiful, the B-2 hit, which was so we obliterated, despite CNN. CNN said, well, maybe the word obliteration said, no, we obliterated it. Just obliterated their nuclear potential. You would have had them having 2 weeks after that attack, had we not made the attack, they would have had a nuclear weapon. They would have absolutely used it. And they would have used it on the entire Middle East, including Israel.
It's kind of strange to me that, like, we just carry this conversation over and over again, and everybody knows it's a lie. I guess with the exception of, like, some of the diehard Republican loyalists, like the cultists, most people know that this is bullshit, right? Especially because, like, Trump himself in the past, after the 12-day war, was like giving assurances that the nuclear weapon conversation was done, right? It's so strange that they're just constantly going back and forth on this bullshit. Like, everybody knows it's not the goal here at all. Like, who is this for? His base already believes them. Just come on, just stop repeating it, you know?
Israel. And you know why you see that? Because unexpectedly, when this war broke out, unexpectedly, they started sending missiles to UAE, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait.
Unexpectedly, they started bombing our bases when we were bombing them. So unexpected. Why would they do such a thing? Don't you know it's illegal?
On Saudi Arabia, there's been some reporting that you've been talking to the Crown Prince. Have you been focused on normalization between Saudi Arabia and Israel?
Well, no, we have a great relationship with Saudi Arabia. What do you hear with Saudi Arabia?
Just hearing that you've been talking and that he has been encouraging you to do certain things related to Iran. Can you share?
Well, he's a warrior. He does. Yeah, he's a warrior. He's fighting with us, by the way. Saudi Arabia has been excellent, and UAE, excellent. And I will tell you, Qatar, incredible. Qatar took a hit, a pretty bad hit. Qatar's very close, you know, they're essentially, you can walk right over the border. Qatar took a hit. They've been great. They've been very strong. Kuwait, they had a little mishap. They shot down 3 planes with our missiles.
That's awesome. A little mishap. Look at him smiling, by the way. That's crazy. That's crazy, bro. Bro, you are a participant. You're the president. You're the commander in chief. You're not watching from afar, man. Those are your planes. It's literally the meme, my tax dollars, somehow also my tax dollars in real time.
They're going to make a deal.
It was a giant wooden horse, yeah. There's a beautiful horse. They said it honors me. It gives me an honor. Many of these European partners have not honored me. They took away my Nobel Peace Prize, but the Iranians, on the other hand, they've honored me by giving me a big, beautiful horse, the most beautiful. It's massive.
They happen to be our planes, but the pilots made it. Can you imagine the pilots making it? The pilots are always coming.
Wait, what? Did you guys hear like a Steam thing? Yeah, I know. It's because Will invited me to play Deadlock. I'm not downloading a game. It's because Will, knowing full well that I'm live, invited me to play Deadlock with him, which I don't even have. U.S. seeking 1 month ceasefire to hold Iran talks, Channel 12. Oh, buddy. Oh, this is great.
And they said, those are patriots. We're not going to escape patriots. And they got out of there pretty quick, Pete, right? Pretty amazing that they got out. The 3 pilots lived. They're fine. In fact, they're flying today.
Not out of Kuwait, though.
Yeah, the Kuwaitis made a mistake. They fired. They thought they were firing at the enemy. It was, as the expression goes, friendly fire. But the pilots are great. They're flying today. Pretty amazing when you think of it. Yeah.
Hasan Reactions is one of the best ones in the React channel.